Overtime!
Hey guys, welcome back to Overtime Arcade. I'm Charlie, and I recently did something that I've never done before. I bought an arcade game at auction. That's right, I bid on and won an arcade game. Now, I own, well over 30 classic arcade video games in my private home collection, but I've never bought one before at auction. It's always been through Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or things like that. And I've been keeping an eye on a bunch of different auction houses for a while, sort of looking around, seeing what's available. And one popped up recently that I was kind of interested in. It's a SEGA game, arguably a rare one, really kind of weird and bizarre. And I won it with a bid of $125. It's a complete game, it's got everything. I might have been the only bidder or one of the only bidders, which maybe is a bad sign. And I'm thinking it could be because of this photo from the listing. So, things look a little bit weird here. The monitor's been removed and put into the bottom of the cabinet. I'm not sure what's going on, but yeah, why don't we head out on the road? It's not too far away. I gotta go pick this up in Frederick, Maryland. We'll bring it home and see what's going on. So if that sounds like fun, why don't we get started? Let's go! All right, here we are, all loaded up. I just stopped to get some gas before heading back out on the road. It was a nice and easy load. Since the monitor was just hanging out in the bottom of the cabinet, I stuck that in the cab of the truck and threw right on. I never trust the rain, so got the tarp on. So even if it is a little surprise downpour, I'll be in good shape. So let me gas up the truck and take this puppy home. All right, and here it is, off the truck, safe and sound in the garage. It's actually been, I think, 5 or 6 months since I picked up this thing, and it's just been hiding in the back in the garage, and I'm really excited to reveal it to you. So there's 2 things that I did do already just for kind of, safekeeping. I did pull the PCB and transport it separately, and I've been storing it separately just to keep it safe. And I did take the monitor that was just hanging out loose in the bottom of the cabinet, and I mounted it into the brackets of the cabinet where it belongs, just so that it wouldn't be jostled around, potentially damaged while the cabinet was being shifted in the garage. So yeah, why don't we go ahead and reveal this thing? Any guesses as to what it is? I should be able to just pull these clamps and drop the tarp. Nope, the tarp wants to just stay there. So let me pull it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right. Some of you are probably still scratching your head saying, Charlie, what the heck is that thing? So I know, there's a lot going on here. So what this game is, it's called Future Spy, okay? And as you can tell right here by the logo on the marquee, it was made by SEGA. All right, this game was developed by SEGA. But if you look over here, the sticker's kind of in the way, you see Bally, right? And on the side here, it says Bally Midway. And what's going on with this thing? Look at the front. Look at that coin door down there, the lower coin door. That kind of looks a little bit like Williams, right? So what's going on? Is this, some sort of Frankenstein conversion thing? No. Believe it or not, this is a dedicated cabinet, and I can explain everything, okay? So this game was released in 1984. which was during the video game crash, right? This was not a good time for arcades or video games in general. And yeah, companies were kind of getting desperate. I believe Sega stopped manufacturing games in North America and worked with companies like Bally Midway and maybe others to distribute the games that they had developed in Japan and get, distribution in North America. And Bally Midway is one of the companies that Sega worked with for that. Something that you might be a little bit more familiar with, but is still a bit obscure, is the Bally Midway 6-pack series. So these were cabinets that had very similar sort of artwork to what you see here in a different cabinet shape, different cabinet design. It was really more like a Journey style cabinet, if you're familiar with that. And these 6-pack games were kind of designed as a family of sister games designed to be interchangeable. You swap the PCBs and maybe you swap the control panels and marquee and you've got a whole new game. That was kind of a market failure. I think the best, the most well-known game from the 6-pack series was probably Flicky. Again, Flicky was developed by Sega but released in North America by Bally Midway as part of that 6-pack series. But this is not a 6-pack cabinet, right? This, like I said, the 6-pack cabinet had artwork very similar to this, but in a cabinet shape much more like Journey, if you're familiar with Journey, okay? So what do we got going on here? Obviously, this is a Midway cabinet, right, because of the artwork on the side and the Bally Midway, coin door. But then you got this down here, this lower coin door, like vault door, which is much more like Williams. But 1984 was well before Williams acquired Bally Midway, so there's no real Williams influence on this game. And this cabinet is, let me tell you, it is a monstrosity. I'm not sure if you can really tell, from the camera. This cabinet is super, super deep. Probably by far the deepest, upright arcade cabinet that I'm going to own. So yeah, super wide, and it might be a bit of a challenge to fit this in a lineup with a bunch of other games, but yeah, and if you recognize this at all, this cabinet was used by Bally Midway in a couple of other games, not particularly common ones. So I know Astron Belt used this cabinet, and I believe Galaxy Ranger did as well. Those are both Laserdisc games. Bally Midway not exactly known for Laserdisc games, but yeah, they used this cabinet, this gigantic cabinet, for Astron Belt and Galaxy Ranger. But again, this is not a conversion. This is not an Astron Belt that was converted to Future Spy. This is a dedicated Future Spy, which is really unusual. This game is uncommon enough in its conversion kit form, and there's even fewer of the dedicated cabinets. So super uncommon, arguably rare. I've only seen pictures of a few others of these on Clav and elsewhere. And one thing that's really kind of funny is, if you notice this control panel, this is weird, right? So this is not how the game was originally manufactured. It looks like the control panel has been covered up with like Formica laminate or something like that, which is just, crazy to me. I don't know what's going on with that. And it's got a plexi put on top. I don't think this is the correct original joystick. This is like a Wiko. I think originally it had like a flight stick. Obviously, these are not, this is not the control panel overlay. These are like a label maker, an old school label maker made these labels for the buttons. But, it's the correct bezel and that sort of thing. But my goodness, what's going on here? This is really weird. And what's funny is when I saw this and when I picked it up, I'm like, I have seen that before. I have seen that cabinet with that just homemade control panel overlay before. And sure enough, I went back to the Vintage Arcade Gal price guide and look at what I found. This picture is in that book, right? Both the hard copy, hardcover and soft cover, and the digital version. And I own the hard copy, hardcover, and I look at the digital version like every day. And look at this picture. This entry for Future Spy is this cabinet. It's this specific one, I guess, when it was being originally, listed for sale elsewhere and eventually ended up at the auction house. This is that cabinet. So one of my cabinets is, there's a picture of it in the Vintage Arcade Gal price guide, which is, kind of funny to me. And yeah, what a bizarre control panel overlay. We'll have to figure this out. And I've looked at pictures of, other dedicated Future Spies that don't have this sort of setup, and they've got flight sticks, and they've got a control panel overlay that looks very similar to what Bally Midway used for the 6-pack, so it kind of matches this artwork here, which sort of makes sense, right? Continue that visual aesthetic, right, in the art package. So what is Future Spy? Like I kind of mentioned earlier, it's arguably the best game in Sega's worst arcade series, and if that isn't a clue enough, this is kind of basically Zaxxon 3, right? So the original Zaxxon game, super, super hard, very common, very popular, isometric shooter, right? Where you've got the flight stick and the spaceship that you're controlling is sort of going from bottom left to top right, and it's flying back and forth, and also goes up and down, shooting obstacles, trying to go over barriers, defeating enemies, that sort of thing. So, there was the original Zaxxon in I think 81 or 82, and then in 82, Sega had Super Zaxxon, which was more of the same, just harder. Neither of those games is particularly well regarded, especially by collectors. I mean, it's a very popular game, very common game. You can find them pretty cheaply. A working Zaxxon, it's probably one of the cheapest classic golden age games that you'd be able to find. Like, I wouldn't pay more than $400 for a working Zaxxon in good condition. And I think they did have dedicated Super Zaxxon cabinets, still made by Sega Gremlin. And then also I think they had conversions of Super Zaxxon to, upgrade your original Zaxxon to Super. And Future Spy is basically Zaxxon 3. So even though the name says Future, it's kind of set not in space, but with, fighter jets, right? Like, traditional air-breathing, airplane fighter jets. So not necessarily the future with respect to the Zaxxon series. And if and when we get this thing working, you'll see that the graphics are very similar to Zaxxon, except instead of in space, fighting, going through tunnels and sort of doing trench run, type of stuff, you're flying over water and attacking aircraft carriers and other ships and that sort of thing. A huge difference, though, a huge difference between Zaxxon, Super Zaxxon, and Future Spy is with Zaxxon and Super Zaxxon, you got to fly left and right and go up and down controlling your height, which is very difficult. I always have a ton of difficulty, doing that because it's hard to kind of gauge where you are, on the Z-axis on your height relative to enemies and obstacles and that sort of thing. Future Spy gets rid of that. So all you have to do is fly back and forth. I think you might be able to go forward and back a little bit in the playfield, but there is no vertical height that you have to deal with. So it makes it a little bit easier. And generally, Future Spy is regarded as a more fun and easier to play game than Zaxxon or Super Zaxxon. And maybe Sega was feeling the heat with people not loving the Zaxxon gameplay. Maybe that's why they sort of split off. Very similar gameplay, made to be a little bit easier, and broke away from the Zaxxon branding with that. So yeah, another thing that's kind of interesting is, in theory, I should be able to plug a Zaxxon or Super Zaxxon PCB into this cabinet and have it work. I don't think you can go in the opposite direction, but I think you can plug Zaxxon and Super Zaxxon PCBs into Future Spy. There's also been some people speculating that you can do a ROM swap to turn a Zaxxon into a Future Spy PCB. I don't think that's actually true. I think Future Spy has some, an encryption, a mini encryption board on it or something like that, but we can take a look at that in a little bit. But yeah, why don't I get the tripod set up and we can open up this thing and see what's going on the inside. Okay, two things I mentioned already that I've already done. I did pull the monitor that was just hanging out loose in the bottom of the cabinet, and I eventually did mount it into where it goes in the cabinet, so to keep it safe, and I pulled the PCB out as well, so don't be surprised if it's a little bit different than what you saw in the picture from the listing. So let's go ahead and open this thing up. It's got this kind of extra lock bracket thing with a piece of wire twisted on. So move that, and we've got two screws here, which I believe I might have thrown in. Just keep that back door on nice and secure. All right, let's pull this back door off, and voila. That's what it currently looks like with the monitor in the right position and the PCB removed. So we'll take a closer look and see what we're dealing with down here. So the first thing I'm going to point out is this giant cavern in the bottom of the cabinet, right? And this is how they were able to, put a monitor down here just to store it, I guess. And like I mentioned, the same cabinet was used with Astron Belt and Galaxy Ranger, which were Laserdisc games. So the whole Laserdisc player and mechanism and all that would be down here, and you can even see the sort of cleats on the side where like a tray might have slid in across those two supports. So huge open space down there in the bottom of the cabinet. So this cabinet is mostly empty space. Coming up, we see kind of what we expect to see of a SEGA cabinet of this era. We've got our giant isolation transformer, line filter over there. This is something for the power supply. I don't know if this is like bridge rectifier board, something like that. We've got an early switching power supply. We've got our wiring harness. Let's see, this is the video and sync connectors for the monitor. We've got some more wiring over here. Definitely the inside, the internal is quite a bit different than what was in the Pango and Carnival, that sort of thing, with the sort of distribution blocks over here. Coming up on the side here, we've got a bunch of instructions here. Let's see, dip switch settings, more dip switch settings, and a manufacturing tag, serial number. So FSPYUR, I'm assuming means Future Spy Upright, and serial number 151. If we come up here, we see that 151 also is etched into the wood of the cabinet. So I think that confirms that this is a dedicated Future Spy, serial number 151. And I'll have to double check, but I believe 151 is the lowest reported serial number by dedicated Future Spy owners, which would be really kind of cool. Coming back into the cabinet, we've got our monitor here. I actually don't think this was the original monitor. I know there's a serial number or a model number up here somewhere. What does that say? Wells Gardner 19K. I know you can probably see it, but not me. What is that? 19K 7601. So 7600, which I think is like a later K7000. So certainly later than what this cabinet was made in. There's a lot of stickers that have fallen off, so I'm not sure we're going to get like a manufacturing date on this thing, unless it's somewhere that I'm not seeing it. But yeah, so figure it's like K7600. It's like a K7000. Yeah, and like it's got a different sort of plug that's been hacked onto it. And where's the power for the monitor? It's somewhere right here. Yeah, here it is. So it'll kind of fit. It'll be fine. But yeah, a little hackery going on. We've got another label here on the harness. It says Future Spy HUGA. I don't know what that means. Another one down here. This blue one, what does that say? Spy Hunter? Did Future Spy and Spy Hunter have similar harnesses, and were they trying to capitalize on the popularity of Spy Hunter, which I believe came out the year prior? Was that Spy Hunter was 83? I want a Spy Hunter, especially a sit-down project cabinet. But yeah, and then the PCB gets mounted on this white panel right there, and then the wiring harness plugs in there. And yeah, so there's some other stuff going on here. There's this plug is disconnected. I'm not sure what to make of that. I'm assuming the way it's connected that it's some kind of AC power. And the other weird thing is this. I don't know what's going on here. I don't even want to power on the cabinet with this, because this could be AC power. So we'll have to test and do something to fix all that, and I'll have to check the schematics and see what's going on there. And speaking of the schematics, mounted on the inside of the back door, I found some instructions in a little baggie. SEGA did this pretty typically. My Pango had its instructions mounted in a baggie on the back door. What's funny about this though is these are not like instructions specifically for Future Spy. If you can see right there, it says Bally Midway's standardized general instructions, and it's, I don't know, maybe 200 pages long. I went through a little bit. There's nothing in here that's specific to Future Spy. It's basically just telling you how to, work with an arcade cabinet. It's got a bunch of different, designs inside. There's a cabinet shape that looks like Burger Time, different things like that. And there's nothing specific. There's no schematics or anything for Future Spy or the six-pack or anything like that. So Bally Midway isn't known for having the most, let's say, elite engineering team, and pretty famous for having all kinds of typos and stuff and errors in their schematics. So maybe I'm not too disappointed that they're not included here. But with this baggie, I actually have my paper receipt from picking up my auction win. This item I won at auction, so let me stick it in there just for safekeeping. So I have my paper receipt of this game that I purchased. So yeah, I don't know what I want to do next. I think with everything disconnected, I want to try firing up the power supply, seeing what's going on with this disconnected plug and these wires that are bare and exposed. I'll do it all safely, but yeah, let me get set up for that. Oh, there's a loose ground strap here, which I believe, based on sort of the wear pattern, should go right here on the back of the power supply. I don't know if this thing was removed at some point. So let me get that all set up for testing, and we'll see what we got with this power supply. Okay, I've been doing a ton of checking and research and reading, and I think I've got this power setup pretty much figured out. So power comes in from the cord, comes through this connector here, goes into the line filter, comes over and around here. Here's where it comes into the isolation transformer, gets split up a couple different places. There is a power supply that only puts out plus 5 volts. Some of that comes over here. This generates the -5 and the +12. I think I have figured out the pinout for this connector that goes to the harness. These other AC voltages, so this A connector goes to the marquee light. The B connector goes to the monitor. I have no idea what this one goes to, and I have no idea what this one goes to, but we'll have to test them. Down at the bottom of the cabinet, I found a bunch of stuff. I found the slam switch, which is kind of beat up, some washers and some Molexes. This one marked C right here. I don't know if this was ripped off of this connector here or what, but like I said, we'll test them and we'll cap this just to make sure it's okay. We'll cover it up. So I've got the harness disconnected. A couple things I did. I reconnected the grounding strap from the line filter to the switching power supply. I put a new plug on the power cord just because it wasn't looking all that great. And I ended up replacing the cabinet fuses that are back here. There's a 1 volt and a 1 amp and a 3 amp fuse. They tested okay, but didn't look all that great. And I couldn't even read the value on the 3 amp fuse. So I put 2 new fuses in there. And I couldn't figure out if I needed, fast blow, regular, or slow blow fuses. So I put fast blow in there, just being the safe side. I figure, all things being equal, a fast blow fuse is safer than a slow blow fuse. But if that causes problems, maybe I can try that later. So I think I'm ready to do a power up test. Basically what I'll be doing, I'll kind of move that out of the way. Basically what I'll be doing is, first I'll check and see what this is, and if that is live AC voltage, I will put wire nuts on those to cover it up. And then I'll check all the other voltages, all the other AC voltages going to the cabinet, making sure they're good before I hook it up to a monitor and the marquee light and whatever. And then I'll check all of the DC voltages that would be going into the harness that would go into the PCB before hooking it up. But before I do that, I want to show you one more thing that I can't remember if I've ever done on camera before, which is open up a lock. So I don't have the key for the lock on this lower coin door, and I'm kind of curious to see what's going on inside of it. Let's see if I can get a good sort of shot here. 2 different ways that I'll do this. You may have seen people do this. Both are kind of destructive. The first one is less destructive, and it's simply jamming in a big flathead screwdriver and torquing it and seeing if you can just crack it open. So I've got my flathead screwdriver on. I'm going to jam. Let me actually grab my hammer. I'll tap the screwdriver into the the key slot of the lock a little bit. And we'll just turn and see if we can break the lock this way. I'm not getting good enough leverage, I think. My hands might be slipping on the gloves. Yeah, we're getting some movement. Let's try the other direction. Sometimes this works, and this is all you need to do. I can't really go the other way. All right, the less, before I bend up my screwdriver, the less interesting and more brute force way is to just drill the darn thing. So that's what we'll do now. So I've got my cordless power drill. I've got a 1/4 inch bit on it just because I have more than one in case I break the bit. And we're just gonna put this in here and drill out the lock. Sometimes it's hard to get started. There we go. That might be enough. Let's see if we can turn the lock now. Nope. Let's keep drilling. I should probably be wearing safety glasses. I have regular glasses on. I need some leverage here. And I just broke, I broke the bit. All right, caught me in the leg, but didn't break the skin. Let's see. What should I try now? Interesting. I think I was putting a little bit too much pressure on the bit. I don't know if I'm going to be able to back it out or what. Yep, there we go. And have we broken the lock yet? Nope. All right, let me get a, yeah, at least, you know, the bit that I broke was a bit that I had more than one of. So let's junk this and get a larger bit. Let's see. 1/2 inch is probably too big, but we'll do it if we need to. We'll go to a 3/8 inch bit. All right, here we go. 3/8. Dang. There we go. Now it's loose. Okay, let's see. What do we got? We broke that pretty good. Okay. I think that's reusable though. I didn't break the mechanism. Look at that. What do we got in here? A whole lot of nothing. Some bits and pieces of a lock bar. But at least we're inside. And yeah, there were a couple of other kind of interesting things that I found in the bottom of the back of the cabinet. There's this, which I believe is it's kind of hard to read, an Electrohome sticker of some kind. I don't know if this says Geo7 over here. You know, it's kind of covered up what it would be over here. 1982, were they still making Geo7s that late? And there's this other piece of paper that got ripped off. Bally Midway, Future Spy, upright. So that's kind of neat. I think my camera's getting all a little jerky as it transitions from close up to wide view. I got a new phone. So yeah, we put all this in here. We'll be able to reuse, I think, the cam and everything, but yeah, definitely need a new lock. So yeah, let me get everything set up on the tripod to do a power on test. Okay, ready to do our initial power on test here. Again, everything is disconnected. The monitor is disconnected. The harness is disconnected. So yeah, and I'm starting with my multimeter set to AC volts, and the probes are connected, clipped onto these sort of bare wires here that I'm almost positive are AC power. And got my new power plug on the old power cord. I'm going to plug it in and avoid knocking over the tripod. All right, it's plugged in. I'm going to throw the power switch on the top of the cabinet, and hopefully nothing explodes, and we see 120 volts or so. All right, 125.7, call it 126. So that's good. I'm going to grab a couple of wire nuts here. Cabinet is off, as indicated by the multimeter, and I'm just going to throw some wire nuts onto these bare wires just to prevent bad stuff from happening. And I somehow managed it ripped like the wire off inside, so that's great. Okay, let me actually do that. I can just cut the wire so nothing's exposed, and still put a cap or a wire nut on it. All right. So there's one capped, and this other one, let me see if I can fish out this wire inside. All right, I wasn't able to get the wire that was crammed into that wire nut, so I actually found two of these kind of crimp style, wire nuts in the bottom of the cabinet and just reused them. They might have been on here originally. I don't know. So yeah, why don't we go ahead and test the other AC voltages. Probably this is overkill to do this little step, just because if we've got one good AC voltage, almost certainly all the other ones are just, wired together. So put our probes in here into this connector, which again, I'm not sure what it's for. I know other cabinets that SEGA made, because this, like this is a AH4002, power supply PCB right here. And it even says SEGA on it, right? So yeah, I've been going back and forth between looking at Bally Midway and SEGA schematics to find the right thing here. So yeah, let's get these in here. And again, this disconnected, could be a fan or something, but we'll power it on. See, that's low. How is that even possible? That's only 100 volts. Huh. That is strange to me. Okay, so that's 100 volts. Well, we know that. So that would be for something that requires 100 volts. All right, and this A connector goes to the marquee, and I believe it is also AC. Yep, 125. The marquee light is not coming on, so I'm guessing we need a new bulb at a minimum. This is the input power, and this is what goes to the monitor. All right. Actually, we can test this at the actual monitor plug. Okay. There we go, which is right here. All right. That shouldn't fall out. All right, 125. Oh, the marquee light is coming on, actually. Okay. Huh. Well, that's good. One less thing to worry about. So we'll turn that off. So power for the monitor is good. It's good to know. Put here. Keep that out of the way. And now we can turn our attention to the DC voltage. Looking everything over, I think, you know, these three brown wires here should all be 5 volts. The black ones are all grounds. And green and red, one of them is 12 volts, one of them is -5, and white is technically not used. So I'll put my ground right here. And we should be able to, let's see, I'll put this into a brown one. So we should expect to see, if everything's working right, 5 volts. And it looks like this power supply is adjustable if we need to make a change to it. So let's look for +5 volts. Uh-oh. Huh. That's 0 volts, not 5. What's this one? Oh, that's because it's on AC. Charlie, what are you doing? Ooh, that's high. 5.8. I mean, there's no load, but I do not want to hook up a PCB to that. Let me test the other voltages. So, oh, that's the white that's not really used. All right, let's move our ground over here. And what's this one? 12. So 12 volts is fine. -5 volts is great. But +5 is 5.8. That's way too high. Let me see if I can get an adjustment tool in there to turn down the switching power supply. Okay, the only tool I could find that would reach in there was metal. So I didn't want to make the adjustment while the game was on, just for safety reasons. I've got it cranked all the way down now, I think, so hopefully we should see something closer to 5 volts. Okay, we're way down, so 5 volts is going to be within the adjustment range of this thing. So yeah, this is the only tool I could get in to fit the... All right, that's up a little bit. 4.3. Okay, let's keep going. Come on. I'd say that's pretty good, especially without a load on it. So let's double check these other voltages. All right. -4.95 for the -5 and 12.21. So I'd say our DC voltages are good and safe. Let's go ahead and hook up the monitor, and I'll get my test pattern generator. And then if the monitor is working, we'll hook up the PCB and see what we get from that. So to hook up the monitor, and I'll point you up here a little bit. All right. Obviously, we've got our power. We can connect that right here, like so. The power lines are a little bit weird, and they're hanging on the flyback, which I don't love. Long term, we'll probably have to address that. And I did see some cracks in the flyback, which I also don't love. To connect the ground, it's got this sort of 1-pin Molex thing here, and there's a ground strap that's intended for the flyback, or for the monitor. Let me see if I can, but it's like broken. Like usually there's a little clip that grabs on right there. But let's see. All right, yeah. Let's see if I can just kind of temporarily, just kind of wedge it in like this. All right. And we'll use our multimeter just to ensure there is a connection from the frame of the monitor to ground. So one here. Yep, we've got a grounded monitor frame. So let me go grab my TPG. I'll hook that up, and then we'll be ready to test the monitor and see if our luck continues. All right, Monitor's plugged in, TPG is plugged in and turned on. Got it sort of up there. And yeah, hopefully we won't see any fireworks. I got to keep Teddy far away so he doesn't get burned. Teddy the arcade dog. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. I didn't hear anything. Nothing. Nothing doing. Let me see if I can hear anything. Let me turn off the lights and see if I have net glow. I can't quite tell. Can't quite tell. Let me see. Yeah, I don't think we've got anything. No net glow, no nothing. This monitor might be dead. Let me look up, I don't know if it's any different on a 7600, how to check the B+. Let me take a look at it. Okay, we're going for broke here. Yeah, the couple things I checked out real quick in the K7600 that's in this Future Spy cabinet. I can't get it working, so we know we've got a broken monitor that we're going to need to fix. So what I did was I grabbed this Qbert monitor that I know is working, that I've got working. I've got the Future Spy PCB. It's this, you know, rather large rectangular two full stack PCB. I've got it mounted back into the cabinet, plugged into the harness. I took a look at it. You know, visually it looks pretty good. Nothing too bad. A little dusty, but that's about it. You know, usually I'll clean the edge connector and press on all the socketed chips, but the edge connector looked perfectly clean. And it's a 2-board stack that I did not want to disassemble, so I'm not pushing on any of the chips. So like I said, we're just going to go for broke here. So I've got the power connected from the cabinet to the, this is a vertical 4600. I've got the power connected, got the ground connected, and I've got the video and sync cables. So I don't know if this thing has a LED on it. This board has an LED, but we're just going to go for it. So 3, 2, 1. I heard a pop on the speaker. Does that mean there's some kind of logic running? We'll come around to the front of the cabinet here. And do we see anything on that monitor? Do we? We see any? Nothing? Huh. What is going on? Let's try crediting up. Huh, the credit switches are not advancing the coin counter. It's not a good sign. Coin counter is at 24,905, which is a lot. Even in my head, I know that's over. Divide that by 4. Over $6,000 went through this cabinet. But why is there nothing on the screen? Turn off the lights. I know that monitor's working. I've got net glow, and Teddy just came in to see what's going on, turned on the garage door light. I've got net glow, so is the board just dead? If I turn it off, what happens? Am I going to see something turn off on the screen? Looks like I got no. Oh, there we go. It turned off. All right, cabinet is off. Cabinet's on. So we have raster. There's just no image at all. Huh, it's funny. Coin door lights work, if you can see that. The bulbs on the coin door lights work. And if the thing will pitch up, no. The marquee light Works. But monitor's dead, and apparently the board is dead too. Maybe it's just not getting enough voltage. Let me try adjusting the voltage and make sure we've got a good solid 5 volts going to the PCB. All right, well, nothing doing, nothing at all. Confirmed 5.1 volts right on the PCB. And yeah, just absolutely nothing coming out of that monitor. I hooked up my TPG to this monitor just to make sure the monitor was still working, and it is. So it's not the monitor. Just absolutely not getting any video, no sound, no nothing. I messed with the dip switches. I think I've got it on free play with attract mode sounds on, and nothing at all. So I guess we're gonna end this one on a disappointing note. Thanks for watching. We'll try to fix this Future Spy in the future. The cabinet's in really kind of decent shape. Got to fix up the T-molding a little bit, clean it up. The biggest issue is addressing this control panel, ripping off this Formica, linoleum, whatever that is, and getting a new control panel overlay. And I think a Zaxxon flight stick is the correct thing for this game. But yeah, otherwise in pretty good shape. Marquee's kind of cool. And yeah, the marquee light works and the coin door lights work, but that's about it. So anyway, can't win them all. Thanks for watching. As always, I'm Charlie. This has been Overtime Arcade, and we'll see you next time.
Overtime!